Congrats on your gold medal, Bopper Duppet.
What the hell is up, gamers? Hold on. Hey, what the hell is on? What the hell is on up, gamers? I'm so ready. Uh, uh, Thank you, Bobber, for getting first and Stanger for getting second. You'll get here fast. So, we never say that shit again. What is up, gamers? Well, why not? I feel like that could be a great catchphrase. I'm sure no one's done that yet. Hello, Gamer Nation. What is up, homeboys? It's your boy. Hey there, demons. It's your boy. Alright, but I'll call you Unk. Or UNC or Unk. I don't know what's more confusing to me. But anyway, I for once have so much energy left over. One, because I'm excited for the trip that I'm gonna take tomorrow. And two, well, I don't know. I guess my soul survived the earlier parts of the day. And I decided, you know what? I would love to play Ultra Kill. It is such a high octane game. And I played it a little bit a while ago. But you know what? I'm a small streamer. And one of the benefits of being a small streamer is that I get to fucking go back on my promises. Because nobody really cares. Nobody's gonna get pissed at me. At least I hope you two wouldn't get pissed at me. So I'm not playing Ultra Kill this week. Also, legitimate reason, because I'm going on that trip. Instead of breaking up the Ultra Kill sessions with the trip in between, at least this way I get to get this game out of the way. It's also a game that I really want to play. It's just been I really wanted to play it. Okay. So I literally had never heard of this game until like yesterday. But I played a little bit of it and my god, it's so fun. It's not like crazy fun, but it's exactly the kind of comforting fun that I thought, you know what, screw it. Remember back in the days when I first started and I just streamed whatever the hell I wanted whenever I wanted? Well, having planned streams has been great because it makes me feel a bit more like an official kind of content creator, and also it puts me on a schedule. Like I have to do this at this time because I said I would and I always do. But the games, however, that has been the one thing that I miss from when I used to do whatever I wanted, is just playing whatever game I wanted to in the moment. And right now, I really want to play more of this game. You want to spend 40 minutes locked in a room with a puzzle you don't understand? Hell yeah! We're not doing that today. This is an action game too, technically. It's just an incremental one. The lore doesn't really matter. I guess it's the future, and they discovered a new kind of coffee that is really good from asteroids. And then just one company started hoarding all of the space coffee beans. And then the main character finds a spaceship and then steals it to go get coffee, I guess. I don't know. Poppet lore when? No idea. At some point, I've got to do like a re-debut. Not like an actual re-debut where I pretend like I've never streamed before, but I mean a thing where I just reimagine a bunch of stuff. Like, I want to redo a bunch of aspects of my stream. here's something that I've been thinking of for a while. I've always wanted to have my streaming done from an actual 3D environment. The downside to this, however, friends and family, is my computer would die if I was playing games and was trying to render a 3D environment for my avatar to be in. But eventually, when I upgrade my setup, I guess. Can you just fake the 3D environment? You're right, I totally could. And maybe that's something that I'll do next in my like evolution as a streamer. Because I feel like things have stayed the same for too long and it itches my brain in the wrong way. Like, I can't afford to do any huge changes right now, at least not without, breaking into my savings, which are barely standing on two legs as it is. So I'm gonna hold on for the time being, maybe make some small changes as I start getting on the positive end of money I'm getting. I've just been spending a lot recently for legitimate things, not just random things like bills and stuff. Like my eyes and my teeth, and that stuff is expensive. Exactly. I need money. When I was working like a part-time job and it wasn't a big, like I didn't have to worry a lot about bills, I commissioned stuff all the time, but I really can't do that now. Especially since I have so many things I'm investing my money into. Go flip burger. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk in detail about it, but my current job is great. Like, it's not a particularly difficult job, and I still have to interact with like customers, but compared to how much I had to do it before, I barely have to talk to them, like just enough to get my job done. And if I know some of them well enough that I can literally just do what I need to do. I don't even need to talk to them, and they prefer that. So great. But yeah, it's a full-time job. I make decent money. I've got decent benefits. It's a pretty good place. Unfortunately, I'm literally just spending much more money than I am making, even with all that in mind. Due to just a lot of things overlapping. I got maybe a bit too generous with some gifts for some friends who had birthdays, one after another. I went on flights, too many impulse flights to other places. Hey, Poppet, you lost the game. Joke's on you. I forget I'm playing it constantly. But anyway, point is, I'm hoping I can make some changes. I can make some changes to my stream at some point. But by far, the biggest thing stopping that from happening is I'm not working on it. Like, I've been saying I would add some redeems that theoretically would not be hard to add for the longest time, and they haven't been done because I'm just not taking the time to do them. I will figure it out. I just need to figure out a system where I just decide now is the time where I do things, instead of just whenever I'm not at work defaulting to now is the time when I do nothing. Forever. I love chaos. I know you do too. You make the routine. What's the coding involved, if there's any? Yeah, there's a little bit of coding. A lot of people use different bots. A lot of people use like Nightbot. I use a different one. It just appealed to me better, called StreamerBot. And specifically why it appealed to me is because it was less user friendly. Like, it's harder to use, but in exchange, it's a lot more customizable. And one of those things does involve that you can mess with the coding yourself instead of just a lot of drag and drop blocks. So it's really just supposed to work as a thing that hooks all of my connections into one place, like Twitch and VTube Studio and the throwing system and OBS, and I can just have a one-stop shop where I can mess with all of them in the same place and make any of them cause any other things to happen. But of course this takes time. Time that I am spending not playing the game. I don't think this is not an especially like difficult game to get into. I played it for a little bit on my own, so I know the basics of it. But yeah, I don't imagine I'll have to be too distracted at first. You mine the asteroids, and then you have a time limit. It's just how sleepy you're getting, and then you die. And then you go back, and then you spend your 1 point on not dying as fast. Or rather, I guess I increase my damage. What the hell is happening in chat? I looked away for 2 seconds. Creation is a mistake. It creates sin and suffering for all living creatures. Everything must fuse back into one. What the hell are you going on about? Man, I'm dying so fast. At least it means I get to upgrade faster. I like to draw and play with toys. It's from Elden Ring? That makes sense. That sounds like an Elden Ring thing. So I'm not sure how well known it is, but speaking of like back when I first started streaming, I always said eventually I would do I would do like a dramatic reading. I had a lot of ideas for stuff I wanted to do other than just gaming. I said I was a variety streamer and I meant it, damn it. But I haven't really done a lot of variety stuff. Other than variety in games, I guess. But I wanted to do more programming. I wanted to do more, I had programming. I had so many things I was interested in. I bought this professional editing software, and I bought this professional art software, and I bought this professional music software. By the way, professional softwares are expensive. I'm still paying off the editing software. You know, not smart, you would think, and you would be correct. Programming? Yup. That was my first passion, was programming. Although one of the reasons why I loved programming so much is because it made so much sense to me, and most people seem to hate it. So it was very easy to become the person that did it. I think stuff is really fun, especially video games. Oh yeah. That was my evolution of passion from just programming, became programming video games. And, you know, again, because of the whole difficulty making myself productive problem, I never really did a lot with that. Technically, I have made one game. It's not even complete. I still have it down as like a prototype. But it was a game where you controlled a brain, and it was kind of, it had a very like mobile game kind of like setup to it, where you controlled a brain, like a psychic brain, and you would use your psychic powers to fling your own brain around and fling other objects around. and you had to get to the like finish line, the objective for each level. Mess with RPG Maker and Team Fusion, but never finish any projects. Yeah, it's so difficult for me. Most of the time I just end up like watching YouTube for a very long time, or, you know, playing like incremental games for a very long time. I tend to be drawn for things that are just made to keep your attention for a very long time. Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've done it with a lot of stuff. Back when I used to be a lot more passionate about writing, I wrote so many beginnings to stories. But never actually got past maybe chapter 3 at most before I just lost passion for the idea. Hey, tutorial, too many work, too many problems. I got like the free membership for Skillshare thinking, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn so many things. I'm gonna become so skilled at a billion things. And then there was a voice in the back of my head that's like, you are not gonna be able to sit through even one of these. And hey, that voice was correct. By the time like the 2 months, free months passed, I had not done a single one of them. And you know what? I'm totally fine with that. It was boring anyway. At least I remembered to cancel it before it started charging me. You know, that could have been worse. What genre of story did you used to write? Well, I guess that's different from what genre of story I'm interested in. But what I used to write was usually like fantasy stuff. Back when I was actually doing writing, like I was in high school, I read a lot of books. Mostly books made by other random authors and not like critically acclaimed ones, because I had Kindle Unlimited, and Kindle Unlimited let you read a bunch of books for free with the added clause that it had to be specified as a Kindle Unlimited book. And things that were specified as a Kindle Unlimited book also happened to be books that were uploaded by just some random guy. Like, you didn't have to have a reputation as an author to upload on Kindle Unlimited. You could be, or just on the Kindle bookstore, you could be anyone. And this was obvious in the fact that there were a ton of books in Kindle Unlimited selection that had like the exact same cover, the exact same font, to the point where I would think like, wait, didn't I see this book somewhere else? And then think, oh no, this is a different one. They just use the same cover. But to answer your actual question, it was like fiction stuff. I like stuff that takes place in a different world. I like stuff that has a mystery element to it. I like stuff that is like well written. I like there to be character development and good foreshadowing and crap like that. It's difficult for me to follow through on that, but I do like it. There were so many like lit RPGs on Kindle Unlimited. That was just like the thing to do. If you were uploading a book, it would be a lit RPG. I don't remember what that stands for. It's like the LIT, whatever. The important thing is a lot of the books were in some way the protagonist ends up in another world, and that new world has video game mechanics. I'm glad that I read like a lot of garbage books on Kindle Unlimited. I'm glad I had that experience because reading books on Kindle Unlimited was what let me realize, like fully understand how bad a book can be. Like, I think I never really had a good concept of that at first. Like, I used to think that if I didn't understand something in a book, then it was my issue. Like, something just wasn't clear to me. That's my problem. I would never, like, and this wasn't just for books, it was for anything. If I didn't really like something about how a story progressed or where the main character was or what was happening, I would just think that I didn't understand it. But there was one book on Kindle Unlimited that gave me that epiphany that made me think, oh, this book is terrible. I'm not misunderstanding it. It's just bad. The RPG is the easiest to write. Probably ends up in a generic fantasy with a system that gives them RPG character stat, and somehow the only one to have it because they're blessed or some bullshit. Yeah. I remember so many of them. There was this one I actually thought was kind of interesting called like Chaos Seed or something, because the way that the main character was like blessed, the advantage he had was based on how the system let people improve at things, get better at things. Like the way the world worked was that you had an affinity for a skill, and the higher your affinity, the easier it would be to level up that skill. But the more you level up a skill, the more your affinity for that skill will go down. So at some point you reach like a cap, like a soft cap to how good you can get at something. And there's some people who will have an affinity to a skill for longer and become ridiculously amazing. But there's like an ironclad rule that everybody will slowly have less and less affinity for something. And the main character's blessing is that they always had 100% affinity for a skill no matter what. And it's a ridiculous skill because it means that he can infinitely get better at something and it will never get harder. But the reason why I liked the book is because I mean, it was an amazing book, but it was one of those lit RPG stories where the main character was very clearly flawed, and it wasn't like an accident, like the writer intended him to be flawed. Like he gets too excited. Oh, hi Alice, welcome in. I'm talking about stuff while I play an idle game in the background. Well, it's not really an idle game, but you can see just by looking at it. But yeah, a lot of those books are just total fantasy fulfillment. And the book that helped me realize that was something called like The Builder's Sword or something. And my God, I hated it so much. I kept reading it. That's my problem, is even if I don't like something, I just don't have that voice in my head that tells me, hey, you're not enjoying this, maybe you should stop. I just have to, I started it, I have to finish it. Which maybe sounds a bit contradictory, considering how many times I've said in the past that I just completely lost motivation for something. But for books, I would devour them whole. I mean, just recently, I got 2 sets of books, like light novel sets for So I'm a Spider, So What, and Overlord. They cost me over like $200 each. Maybe I should not have spent that much money, but I've read every single one, and I think it was like over 36 books, and they're all like 200, 300 pages on average. and I finished them all in a month. Once I get started on something, you cannot say that I am not devoted. Like, at some point, I might start to lose motivation. If I start losing interest in it, I might start getting burnt out and not want to do it as much. But I hold on for quite a while. Oh, not the full title, my mom. Alice Lord of Blanche. Like that's a mother disciplining you. What was I gonna say? Right, so I kept reading this book series, The Builder's Sword, and I'll tell you exactly why it was so bad. It was just blatant power fantasy in every sense of the word. Like, you'd have books that were clearly, oh, okay, so everything just goes right for them always. But this book, from like page 1, was like, I cringed. I was a child and I cringed. I barely knew what cringing was, but I cringed at this main character. It's like, whoa, this woman that looks like a Victoria's Secret model is into me and she wants to sleep with me. Whoa, that's crazy. I'm just an average guy. I'm just your average guy. And yeah, he does sleep with that girl, by the way. In case you were absolutely burning to know. Water, 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 and water. I pause to hydrate. But it kept escalating. Like, oh, I guess he became like the king of hell or something, and he had like he got like this whole harem. And then there's this one interaction in particular that made me cringe, where one of the characters, one of the like female characters who are super into him, mentions how they have like a written schedule of who gets to like sleep with him when. And again, a child I was reading books, I cringed. Like, oh. Gross. And not even gross as in ew, as in like, who's wrote this? But another thing that blew my mind as to how bad it was the main character had this sword, and he was supposed to like fight with it, but he was struggling. He wasn't strong enough. Like, this newer, bigger, badder like hell monster was too powerful for him. Like, he's got to learn how to fight with the sword. And then he's training in like a field or something, and a tornado shows up and it like sucks him in, and he's like in the tornado, and he's like, oh, I can feel the winds. They're training me in the center of the tornado. So he starts doing sword forms in the tornado, and then I don't know, he says something about it feels like years are passing, and then he's like cuts through the tornado, and he's like way more powerful now. And then somebody walks up to him and is like, whoa, are you okay? Like, that vortex swooped you up. It's been 5 minutes. And he is like, oh, I guess it was some kind of time vortex that just showed up, right? You know, those time vortexes that fucking appear out of nowhere, you know, those. Anyway, I'm strong now. Oh. There's no explanation for it. No one knew it was a time vortex. It was just a time vortex. There's a time vortex. I got sucked up into it. I did. The winds taught me story fighting. And then... yeah, I don't know. I don't think I read much further past that. I think I lost it. I officially lost my patience as at time vortex that just showed up. And the wind in the vortex taught me how to fight with his sword. And it just happens. Like, he's too weak, and then the time vortex happens, and now he's strong, and he beats them easily. And I guess I had that epiphany again too when I was reading a lot of like manhwas, like the kind where it's like soul cultivation, and so many of them are straight up power fantasies. Like, there are good ones. I've read good ones. I don't remember the names of them because they all were like foreign names. But there's one in particular. I don't remember what it was called because of course I don't. But I've never read anything in my life where I so deeply down in my soul just hated the protagonist. Like, I hated this protagonist so fucking much. And you weren't supposed to hate them. As far as I can tell, you were supposed to be on their side. I'm straight up had like fantasies in my head about them getting like curb stomped.
It a technique called divine wind, sword summoning, time vortex that defied the heaven.
Divine wind sword summoning, wind sword style. That would absolutely be what it's called too. And the fuck, like, oh, and all this was happening in that story, and then there's also like stats and an RPG mechanic as well, just for it to be palatable to the readers. But the cultivation story thing, knowing you spent 1,000 points sets me more than it should. It had, you know, sometimes it needs to be said. Ah! Average cultivation sword technique. I don't remember anything about this story. I think I erased it from my brain. But the biggest thing I remember is he just kept getting stronger. It was this endless loop, endless loop of like, man, I'm weak now. I need to get the blah 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 ginseng to increase my cultivation speed, and then I'll be much stronger. And then some distant powerful entity was like, haha, I'm insulted by this mortal's like being so full of himself. I'm gonna teach him a lesson by killing him and beating his family or something. And then he's like, nice, are you courting death? And he gets the power boost from the cultivation thingy-majig of that week, and he beats them easily, and they're like, how? Like, they do an attack, and they're like, haha, that definitely destroyed him completely. And then he's like, just alive. And they're like, what? How could you? Like, this is nothing. And then just like obliterates them. They just die. Everyone watching is like, whoa, how could he do that? And then they do it all again. Like, there's another mysterious entity who is intrigued that he managed to win his fight. But he'll never be strong enough to beat me. Now I'm gonna get revenge for my family that he dishonored by beating his family. Making an example out of him. And then he gets another cultivation thingy-majig, and he gets even more stronger, and then they fight at the appointed time, and they're like, haha, I destroyed him easily, and like, this is nothing, you're courting death. And like, whoa, how can that be? But I am astral realm, I am an astral master. And like, well, I am astral master plus now, fool. And then just wipes him off the face of the earth. Ugh. Right, but here's another common theme about the story. Every single woman was innocent. Every single one. And also they happened to be like drop dead gorgeous. Well, the good-looking women were always innocent, and even when they were villains, he gave them mercy. Like, you're gonna work for me now. Like, just because I think you're a good worker, it has nothing to do with any other reason. And there's one time he, like, defeated a woman, and then like, and now I'm gonna humiliate you, and then he like made her old, like, I have stolen your looks away from you, and that was going to be maybe the one time that the series ever punished a female character, like, and didn't try to get them into his pseudo harem. But then she came back, and he's like, actually, I changed my mind. You're gonna help me now. Apparently, I need your help for some reason. And I'm gonna make you beautiful again. Just because. If you help me, I'll make you beautiful again. And like, oh, okay, I'll be so devoted to your service now. Like, great. My protagonist is the best. He never lose, never think about his action, even though the protagonist destroy a village, harass women, kill it. Because they looked at him wrong. Exactly. Respect the change you eat. There's like the thing that broke the camel's back. Oh wait, ad. I'll let the ad finish, and then we'll save that as for after these messages. I'll just silently play my incremental game here. Oh, God. There's a kind of comfort from reading, like, really garbage books. But you can only do it for so long. I read this particular bad story for way too long. Like, I think a couple hundred chapters. I got 100 chapters in before I finally was done. Oopsie. Make a whole ass book making fun of the genre. I would totally read that. A lot of those novels just don't have like any amount of self-awareness whatsoever. Okay, ads are over. Anyway, so the thing that really broke the camel's back for me, that finally made me quit that terrible story 200 chapters in, I went to thousands, by the way. I don't know how the fuck you could do the same thing over and over for 1,000 chapters. I misbought it? Yeah, me too. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Bot, guys. It's just his voice recognition is based on, I guess, the Windows voice recognition, and it just went to crap at some point. Like, it no longer recognizes anything I say even remotely accurately. Maybe I'll look into seeing how to fix my boy up at some point. But yeah, the protagonist is just a bad person. The thing that made me stop, like, actually was like, okay, this story makes me unhappy. I'm done with this forever was the main character had gained so much prestige as this ultra powerful high astral bone density master or something, and he was at a party and there was like everyone was like scared of him. They all knew how crazy powerful he was, and there was one guy who didn't know, and he walked up to him like he didn't even know him. He had no idea who he was. He was just like, I've never seen you before. Like, you look like you're from a poor family. Which, okay, you know, yeah, in any story, that guy would be the bad guy. However, what happened next was the guy's father immediately, like, going onto his knees and hands and knees going, I'm sorry, please forgive him, he didn't know. And the main character's like, huh. Yeah, well, you know what? You've insulted me, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cast a spell that's going to kill your entire bloodline. I'm gonna wipe out your whole bloodline because your son mildly sassed me. And he just does it, and then a bunch of people who have nothing to do with the situation just drop dead. And they're like, and he like leaves just them alive, and they're all in tears. And I'm like, what the fuck? He's the protagonist? That is such an objectively evil thing to do. How can you even justify this? Even in my wildest like power fantasies, I've never been this evil. Like, I, like most people, have had my moments where I was like, man, I really wish I could just like kick this guy down a peg or two. I've never wanted to make their entire family fucking die. Just no, they had no idea. They have nothing to do with it. You're supposed to like tag them because zero redeeming qualities that make him likable. You just gotta have massive harem and everyone about him. Exactly. He has no likable qualities and just women flock to him. I guess that is a fantasy for some people, is to just be an asshole and people will still like him anyway. Specifically beautiful women. Just to be, you know, I remember in particular, one of the worst things about, oh, hey, JJ, liar, you have to be more specific. One of the probably additional aggravators to reading this is that I kept seeing Facebook comments on the manhwas that I was reading, and my God, they're always just like the shittiest people on the planet. Like, every person commenting on these series are awful people. There's like such cold takes. Hey Darcy, nice job getting therapy. Like, I'm playing this game and also talking about story, really bad writing, since this doesn't take a lot of brain power. So there are people who are like totally 100% on board with this protagonist's whack-ass fucking justifications. Like, when he did that thing where somebody mildly insulted him and he killed their whole family, like right then and there were people in the comments agreeing with him, like, haha, that'll teach him. You can't be a real person. There was another one, which was clearly a child. Clearly a child who's reading this series. Bad development for a child who went like, man, I wish I had power like this. I would kill all the bullies at my school. Like, no! I remember reading that and immediately being like, oh, so this is why random people shouldn't suddenly have godlike powers. Like, I used to think, man, it'd be so cool if I just randomly got super powerful. But that comment made me think, if a random person could get super powerful, it could end up in the hands of someone like this. So I don't want that to happen. Like, could you imagine if genuinely a random person just suddenly got overpowered as hell? Just some guy somewhere. Odds are pretty good they would use their powers. They would abuse their powers pretty damn quickly. I don't care who you are. You're gonna abuse it eventually. But if it goes in the hands of one of these, like, power fantasy type people, we're screwed. We're all screwed. If there wasn't taken, you always gotta check. You give power to a random, you get a local Homelander. Exactly. I legitimately think those Facebook comments reduced my faith in humanity. Like, seeing how many people just did not see a problem with this kind of behavior. Like, I get it's supposed to be a power fantasy, and maybe some of these people would justify saying, oh, I wouldn't actually, but if you would treat this kind of thing this casually in this circumstance, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to convince me you wouldn't be the exact same way if you actually were to get that power. Please, no one give me great power. Yeah, that, like, I think I'm a pretty decent person. I will not lie. If I randomly got, like, godlike powers, I'm abusing them. I am actually thinking about that scenario has been kind of something that inspired me for a story. It's something I wrote like a template for a while back, but so there was this movie called Looper where like there's like this minor detail that doesn't really you don't go into it much in the story, in like the movie, but it's just the thing. Oh, by the way, some people have psychic powers, like 1 in 3 people, but it's literally so minor that no one really cares and the world doesn't really change. Like, the most one of those people can do is lift a coin, and that's it. Like, that's the most people with psychic powers can do. And they introduce it at the beginning of the movie, and then at the very end, they reveal a character who, through some genetic mutation, has insane psychic powers. And there's technically one of the antagonists of the movie. And it comes as kind of a surprise because the psychic power element of the story is, like, discussed so little. Hive swap? I've heard about that. But Homestuck is something I've never really gotten into just because it seems such a big thing. But anyway, the story idea I had was I was interested in the idea of, like, what if one of those random people did get power, right? What if we live... I was interested in a story where, like, oh yeah, it's similar, where people just have very minor powers, but then one person who wears a mask and just goes out and just slaughters people using, like, a ridiculous level of this kind of psychic power. And the whole story is more about the rest of the world's reaction to this person. Like, how do you deal with somebody who has, like, the entire fighting power of a nuke in their singular body? Like, what lengths would you have to go to? Like, everything that this person does casually just affects the lives of millions of people. And I kind of wanted to explore a story that took place in a world like that. Maybe something that shifts between protagonists who, in one way or another, were affected by this one person. I had a lot of ideas for what I would call it. It's just been something that's stewing in my head. But something like catchy one word, like unjudgeable or something. Because like the whole point of the story is like, how do you deal with somebody who is literally unjudgeable? Like you have no way to punish them. They can do whatever they want and the world at large just has to deal with it. Kind of like that one Twilight episode where a child got god powers, except like to a global scale. But counter with another god? I guess if you can find one. But back to what I was saying before about just like, yeah, I would have used the hell out of that power. Aren't you a guy, God? Oh, great Poppet. In perhaps the playground of my own mind, I am a god. I placate myself often. Like if I'm pissed off at somebody, I placate myself often by just imagining horrible scenarios. And just from that alone, I know, man, if I ever got real power, I'm becoming a villain. I'm sorry. Like, maybe at first I would be more subtle about it because I know enough about how power corrupts that I think I'm just gonna like try to have a little bit of fun with it and not ruin anyone's life. I'm ruining people's lives so fast. Like, when you have that kind of power, at some point, people don't matter to you anymore. Like, if you could, like, I've seen a lot in like time loop type stories too. If you can kill somebody and then not have the consequences of that, like even to the point of being able to bring them back or undo the action entirely, why wouldn't you do it at least once? And if you've done it at least once, why not do it again and again and again? And next thing you know, whether or not you kill a person is like the same as deciding whether or not you want to put salt on your food or not. I fear it'd be the same. The government's pretty silly right now. Yeah, it's pretty sucky that a lot of the time we do have to just like bend the knee to whatever entity is the most powerful at the time. I mean, in a way, we technically do live in that world. The only benefit is that it is not a single person's will, but rather like a collective. No one person is actually strong enough to control the whole world yet. But if someone ever did, you know, we're donezo. I don't care who you are, you're becoming a tyrant. You cannot not. I know myself well enough to say that I would too. Because even if I would use it for fairly innocent reasons at first, at some point I'd probably start killing people. I'm gonna be totally for real. I know that sounds like a dark thing to say, but I absolutely would. there are people that I hate enough in the world that if I truly think to myself, if I had the power to take them away from this world, I absolutely would. Easily. So I know if I had that power, as innocent as I would try to be with it, I would do that at some point. And once you've done it once, it gets easier and easier. The game is starting to get a little bit more intense. It's getting a little bit harder to speak and play. And I don't remember how I started talking about how absolute power corrupts absolutely. But, you know, man, I'd never really sunk in for me as a child when I heard people say that, how true that was. People can think all they want that they would be above that, but it changes. Your perspective changes. When your place in the world changes, fucking course your perspective is gonna change. Because you're standing in a completely different position. Your perspective is gonna change whether you fucking want to or not. I mean, people get corrupt on minimal power they have now. People at the DMV get corrupt on their own power over people's lives. A woman sassed me at the DMV once. And you know, in most places, I go, what the hell? But at the DMV, I'm just like, okay, whatever, just as long as I can get out of here. And she knew that. She knew I didn't want to make this more complicated than it needed to be. I just wanted to be out of there. Goddess of the prairie, origin of evil. wrong chat. Reddit mods. Yeah, that's it. That moderators is just the obvious, getting corrupt on what minimal power you have. I'm the law here. But I really have put a lot of thought into that whole, what if I ended up with godlike powers? I put a lot of thought into it. Enough so it'd probably be good material for my book. Like, if, you know what, here's like a guide for you. You know, in case, kind of like a, here's what to do if you ever win the lottery. Here's what you do if you ever end up with godlike powers beyond even your own comprehension. Like, by far, the most important thing is to clearly establish boundaries and, like, morals for yourself, right? See what minds think alike or something. Great minds think alike, but idiots never argue. I've never heard that line before. I don't have enough brain power spare to really think about it, but it sounds good. Oh, cool, boost. Wow. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. I was gonna say something else. Ow. That game really is demanding a lot more of my attention now. I would probably turn everyone into a toy and try to make them watch the stream. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't do it at first, but in some way I would try to be the center of attention for the entire world. How could I resist? Well, here's the thing, right? Like, if you had this kind of power, you need to establish morals for yourself, right? Because I don't know how it is with other people, maybe, but for me anyway, if you know going into it what power can do to a person, you need to, like, set rules for yourself, you know, have a code. Very strict code, like, with as little gray area as possible. And if you ever stumble upon a gray area, make a decision and then have that always be your decision. Like, even at times when maybe it feels hard to stick to that decision. Because the more you change your morals, the more you let that be liquid, the easier it would be to slip into being a person that you don't recognize. Because you can say that you'll do something just the one time as much as you like, but it doesn't matter what the circumstances are. Once you've justified it once, it's so much easier to justify it a second time. That's for anything. Like, you can only say you would never do something once. I do that when I can just be evil. Yeah, you could just go straight for it. Just skip time. Yeah, and that's true, Stranger. It just puts it off at the end of the day. Like, if you, the only way, this is gonna sound dark, but if you truly are, like, just in the deepest part of your heart, like, I don't want this to turn me into a bad person, you have to accept the fact that one day you're going to have to end your own life because no one else will be able to do it. Like, at least assuming that you know for certain that no one else will ever get that same power. Me, I would not do that. Because I am not a good person down to the deepest part of me. I would try to maintain my humanity for as long as possible, but, you know, if I become a tyrant, somebody's gonna have to stop me. Because I'm not stopping myself. Like, I'm sorry, I'll try. I really will try to do as much good as possible, but what makes something good in the first place, like, goodness in its essence doesn't really exist objectively. Good is always subjective, so it doesn't matter how much you could only ever enforce your own values, and that's it. And at the end of the day, with infinite power, you're enforcing your own values on the entire world. At least if you decide to take that scale. But yeah, I've thought about it a lot. It's honestly, I think it's almost kind of like a de-stressor kind of fantasy for me at this point, to imagine if I had that kind of power. But it also grounds me in a way, because always know in the back of my head what I would really be okay with if that situation actually happened. I guess it's kind of like a thought experiment in that way. You have a real tea party with your shark? You could do that. You'd have a tea party with actual sharks. You could have the best tea on the planet generated from an infinite pitcher with an infinite array of the most, like, distinguished sharks you could imagine. That's the joy. That is, to be quite literal, the dream. Give everyone power to see how people, if they all die, revive everyone and try something else. That's another thing. Of all the end scenarios, I think about, like, what would people end up doing if they had that power? The whole simulation kind of, there's a simulation kind of eventuality where if you had the power to create, like, the best possible future, then there would be some people who would end up just for almost an eternity trying things again and again and again and changing the world in little ways to try to get that perfect. What if Mr. Beast was evil and fucked up? Hey, current Mr. Beast, if not already there, is on his way. Like, you want to know, here's a theory I have. Like, you always see things about, like, big YouTubers and celebrities getting into shit. Like, they were up to shady crap. And, I mean, maybe this isn't so much a hot take, but I think it's, like, there's a lot of things to draw from that, but I think that the biggest part is just, like, celebrities in their own way have a lot of power, and that power still corrupts. Like, you need a pretty strong willpower to have that much attention focused on you and, you know, maintain your own morals. Well, the other end of that is that people on the internet greatly overinflate any minor mistake you might make and turn you into a villain without you actually having done anything explicitly wrong, but that is neither here nor there. What would you do with infinite power and time? I think if I actually had that ability, like, if we're talking about infinite time is something different, but if I had infinite power and time, I would most likely, I'd probably cut myself off. I would turn myself into my own, like, fairy godmother, essentially. Because no matter what I give myself with infinite power, it's not going to mean anything to me if I think that I just got it. So I would do something along the lines, I'd probably mess with my own memory a lot, where I would give myself things. I think probably the easiest thing is just make myself super lucky, like just make that a reoccurring force. But not have me remember that I made that happen. Because I would want to be satisfied. I want to feel, maybe make myself have more of a natural affinity to things that I wish I had an affinity for. So that way I can still earn all those things I want, but it will just come more naturally to me. I think that's what I would do. I don't have any grand ambitions about changing the world, because I honestly don't care. Like, the world is a pretty awful place, but Poppet will become an eldritch god who grants favor to people. not gonna lie, that is also a fantasy I've had. If I had that kind of power, I might just do some Loki shit and just approach humans and try to make deals with them. Just, you know, mysterious figure appearing in your home, like, what up? I would totally do that. I mean, that just sounds fun. And then maybe once I've had my fun, just undo it all. I definitely limit how much I use that power to interfere with my own life. Because I've gone through that whole arc before with video games. Like Skyrim, I enjoyed Skyrim so much, but what greatly increased the time it took, or reduced the time it took for me to get bored with it, was when I started messing with console commands. I just started giving myself a lot of the stuff I wanted, maxing up skills and like just killing NPCs I wanted to be dead. That is like the closest I think I've ever come to actually having that god fantasy filled. And my immediate feeling was like, well, the whole world is just a toy in a toy box I can do anything I want with, so why should I bother doing anything? I can have whatever I want whenever I want it, so I feel no desire for any of it anymore. Last question, what form would you take if you could choose any form? You have to be more specific. Like, if I could shapeshift, or if I could shapeshift once. And I assume from the way you worded it, it sounds like anything is on the table. Shapeshift at will? Oh, now you're speaking my language. That's a fantasy I've had before too. When I think about powers I would have, I've thought definitely shapeshifting is one of the coolest and most useful powers. Because I mean, you could shapeshift for convenience, you could shapeshift for fun. It has practical uses, like a ton of practical uses. Ad started. Wait, I don't remember if Stained gets added or not. Well, just in case, I'm gonna wait. I've been stuck on this level for a long time. I think I've reached somewhere between me talking and playing this game. I've hit the cap on how much I can really pay attention to the game while also talking. I don't even know what's the reason I've been dying most of the time. I've just been noticing it happen. Ah! Well, I know why that one happened. Okay, right. So shapeshifting is one of the most interesting powers to me. And definitely if I had to pick a power, that's definitely the one I would go for as often as it was available. And it's because I could just be whatever I wanted to be whenever I wanted to be it. I feel like it's like a lesser godlike power even. Cause like maybe there's like small things I want to change about myself, but really I just want to try out different forms and see what it feels like. Like imagine the shenanigans you could pull with shapeshifting. You could you just be a whole you could totally catfish somebody. You could catfish someone in real life. That's a weird thing to immediately jump to, but you totally catfish a person in reality, not even using an app. Or I guess at that point you'd have to ask yourself whether it's really catfishing if you're actually changing your appearance to look that way. I'm not sure how many people would actually care if you just were like, haha, I look like am this beautiful woman, but in reality I shapeshifted into that. Like, huh. Okay. I feel like most people wouldn't actually care. At least, assuming that you were still gonna date them or something. Unless you're literally just catfishing people for fun. Just turning into my persona into a monster, like the Xenomorph, just to scare people for fun. I would probably do something similar. I mean, I'd do research into figuring out how I could shapeshift so that I could get as fast as possible, just so I could get to places faster. Or maybe depending on how precise the shapeshifting is, see if I can like temporarily shapeshift myself so I can like do these crazy acts of strength or speed. Or even you could just shapeshift into somebody who is much stronger or faster and just use that natural power if you don't have that precise control. Damn. If you could have any Kirby copy, but which one would it be? That's a really hard question because Kirby has 1 billion of those. I have no idea. There's so many that I've never even seen. I think a bunch were introduced in like Lost World, and I've wanted to, but never gotten around to playing Lost World, so I'd just be stuck not knowing, really. But I'm sure there's probably some pretty good ones out there. But on the subject of superpowers, and like if you could have one, and you know, also kind of on the same beat of me talking about books I used to read, there was a really great book series. Like I loved this series. I still do love it. Just because it was set in like a world where superhumans were normal, and it was specifically about a girl who was the daughter of a pair of pretty famous superheroes, and she through a misunderstanding and an accident, she ends up becoming a supervillain. Like she wants to be a hero, and it started out as a misunderstanding, but she realized that she enjoys being a supervillain. Like it's kind of fun, and also part of her power kind of makes her act very supervillain-esque. one of the things that was interesting about the story, I think it was called Don't Tell My Parents I'm a Supervillain. But that book series had so many interesting powers. Like, there were a lot of classic ones, like, oh, super strength, super speed, I can fly, I create flames. But they had some super cool ones, and then went a step further and showing like how that person's life is affected by the fact that they have that power. There was one of the author of the series had a lot of like spin-offs where it would take, I think they had a whole series of spin-offs actually, where each book in the series was a different protagonist set in the same world. And there was one protagonist that, like, she had like 2 powers, which was not unusual in this world. It was kind of rare, but it happens. And one of her powers was like a passive one that she couldn't turn off, that made it so that people were never able to recognize her. Well, sort of. It's more like, whenever people saw her, they, I guess, sort of immediately had the feeling, I've never met this person before, and they felt that very strongly. And, but the way she would, it was just something she lived with, and it wasn't like, it didn't break her life by any means. It was frustrating for her, but she was still able to remind people, like tell them, no, I'm this person. And they would take a second and go, oh, weird, I didn't recognize you for some reason, even though they changed nothing about their appearance. Like, they can break it by calling attention to it. And some people are able to logic past that feeling of this is a stranger as well. Like, her brother has just gotten used to it in a way. Even after years, her brother is still affected by it, but he's figured out ways to, like, not fall victim to it. Like, he just reasons, if a girl is randomly walking into my home at the time that my sister is supposed to get home, it must be my sister. Like, he just does that. He just tells himself that. Like, oh, this must be my sister. I don't recognize this girl, but she's coming in when my sister would, so it must be my sister. And there was another time, too, where he, like, called her phone, and when he saw it ring in her pants, he was like, okay, that's my sister. And that was, it's such an interesting kind of, aside from the fact that in itself is kind of an interesting power, her brother also had a crazy power. I would almost say is overpowered if they didn't make it very clear in the story its weaknesses. Like, his alter ego as a superhero was like Pathfinder or something. And his whole thing was that his power was almost omnipotent in a way. Essentially, if he just thought really hard about doing something, about what he wanted to accomplish, like, he would instinctively know the things he needed to do to make that thing happen. And it was, he wouldn't know exactly how the actions he had to do would lead to what he wanted, but his power would always tell him what he needed to do. It was like it's certainly an instruction guide. Like, if you had a instruction guide for any specific scenario that you want. It seemed so cool to me. And it wasn't even something he had to listen to and then, like, react to. The power went so far as even, like, letting him feel what he needed to do with his body, too. Like, and he would casually use this power. like when he was talking to his sister and he didn't want the conversation to be interrupted, like he didn't want somebody to like call attention to him because he didn't go to that school. He was talking to his sister and then randomly started saying something like, oh yeah, my biology class did this week and I'm still, man, I need to get caught up on it. And he did that and then just randomly switched back to talking about what he was talking about. And it was because he used his power and focused on the task of, don't let me get noticed, or don't let me get called out by this bus driver or whatever. And that just literally just the best powers. It's so good. Like, you can just make things happen. Like, the downside of it, and I admit it's a decent downside to that kind of power, is that you know what you need to do to make it happen, but there's a monkey paw aspect to it where you don't know exactly how it's going to fulfill what you want done and what's going to happen on the way there. Because you could have something like, oh, I want that sign across the street to be destroyed or something, and then the power would could tell you, oh, just pick up this rock and throw it exactly like this. You know, okay, and do it. And then some car skids on the rock in exactly the right way that it slams into the sign and also kills the driver. And just right there, you've killed somebody. But you didn't know it would kill somebody. But you would have to use your own judgment to tell how what you're doing is going to lead to that, like, result. So he had to be careful with it. He couldn't add conditions to it, like, I want this to happen, but not if it means doing this. It had to be a simple thing he wanted done. And he did have the ability for it to be, like, really ridiculously huge things, and it would give him, like, the quickest instructions to make it happen. But either they were like ridiculous things that he didn't really want to do, or, you know, he would have to keep up doing those actions for longer than he could feasibly foresee any possible consequences. Like, if you're getting this task that's being explained to you, and there's the potential that the end result for this can only happen if somebody I love dies, and you would have no way of knowing. I think that's a pretty decent drawback, but I still say it's a good power. Like, a crazy good power. But yeah, the main reason why I like that power is because I feel it encapsulates so much the flavor of godlike power I think I'd be able to actually enjoy, which is something that doesn't actually make me powerful, but it just affects my ability to impact things. Like, I can't do anything supernatural, but I can make things happen. I can make things I want happen just because I know I've got, like, the answer key, in a sense. Like, I would go so far as to think I might be able to keep my morals and humanity with that kind of power. It's, like, just the right amount of overpowered without being too far removed from reality. Yeah, but that character was not the main character for obvious reasons, and also, you know, ow. Oh, I guess there was also the aspect of the monkey paw thing where at one point, like, he fell short of doing what he was trying to do because his wish, quote unquote, wasn't granted in the way he thought it would be. There was one point where he was just focusing on saving his sister, but he didn't realize what saving his sister would actually mean. Like, he thought it meant it would save her from that situation, but in fact, it just led him into failure. Because from her perspective, she didn't want to be saved and she didn't need saving. So saving her would mean saving her from him. So he got fucked up because his own power made him do things that led to him getting his shit rocked. Back to an earlier point, the original series, not the spin-off, although a lot of the spin-off ones are interesting. The main character's power was kind of like she could go into like this absent-minded like fugue state, sort of, where she was able to just invent really crazy things. And in the book series, the way it usually worked is that the books would begin with her creating some insane thing, and a lot of the rest of the book would involve her making heavy use of it. So the setup for it, right, is that her and her best friends, like, she's got like two friends. There's kind of like a sort of love triangle thing going on where there's this guy friend she has and this girlfriend she has, and she's pretty sure that the girlfriend likes the guy, but she likes the guy, and she doesn't know if the guy likes her back. But teenage romance aside, I actually think it's handled rather well as far as teenage romance goes. But that aside, the way they do powers in the series is so interesting. The setup for the whole world is interesting. Like, there's this big rule between heroes and villains that no one ever breaks. Like, just don't get personal. And the reason why heroes and villains alike all respect this rule is because a mega powerful, like, pseudo supervillain, and I say pseudo because they're not necessarily evil, they're essentially like very chaotic neutral, enforces that rule, and if anyone breaks it, she will break your legs. She will ruin your life. Like, that is the rule, is to almost like this very powerful being is keeping heroes and villains in a way that it stays like like almost game-like. Like, people can still get hurt and people can still die, but at the end of the day, anyone is allowed to retreat into their alter ego, and no one is allowed to break that. Like, it is against the rules to come after somebody when they are not acting as a superhero, or go after their family. So there's a level of protection which allows really young supervillains to even exist. Like, because no one's allowed to try to pry into their actual identities, even though in some cases you can tell. You can pretty easily tell. But she had this... Alright, she was in a love triangle. The guy friend does not have superpowers, but at some point he drinks an elixir type thing that main character made in her scientist fugue state. And it gives him super strength. And that is essentially his power for the rest of the series. But the girl, her power is like, I guess cuteness is literally her power, is that people are just find her charming and cute, and they let their guard down around her. I think that's literally her whole power. But their powers by themselves are not really that amazing, but their whole thing as a supervillain trio is that the main character keeps making things for them that makes them a lot more threatening as supervillains. Like, they kind of, after a while, become seen as like almost like prodigy supervillains. Like, they're very young supervillains, but they're like, oh, they're actually like beating full-on adult professional superheroes and getting away with it. I don't actually remember a lot of what happens in that book. I remember the big story beats. There was one book. There's one book where they went into space and some really freaky stuff was happening there. There was like this whole parasite and robot type thing. Like, there's this space parasite that could possess people and would spread to other people. And there was like, oh no, I think it was actually more specific than that. It was a parasite that would possess robots. Like, it controlled robots, and it made them like a lot more, made them very controlling, evil, essentially. The finale of the series was amazing. I was gonna say, I was a little bit disappointed by exactly how they handled it, but it was still crazy. Like, the whole last book was so good. Like, oh my god, there was even like a plot twist too to it. That's just so well done. And how it all gets resolved at the very end. It's like a good way of ending the story, a good way of resolving some of the bigger problems, as well as allowing a lot of future things to happen. And I never realized exactly how much I would be talking when I had the brain power to do it. I'm definitely playing the game worse as a result, but I didn't think I'd even be able to talk for this long. I just have a lot of things I want to say, I guess. Especially if I'm explaining something. But that being said, what I said earlier about that book series, Don't Tell My Parents I'm a Supervillain, hard recommend. I mean, it's definitely aimed at teens, but it's still so well written. Definitely one of the few books. No, actually, it wasn't even on Kindle Unlimited. Never mind. It was a good book that I had to pay for because it wasn't available on Kindle Unlimited. Only shitty books are allowed on Kindle Unlimited. Poppet the Yapper. So I've been told. If I get one more ring, I can get stocks. Damn it! It's so hard to do that, especially when I'm half paying attention. Missiles. A big boost just then. Hop up. Hey, Char. Welcome in. No, don't worry about it. I was talking about a lot of stuff. I don't know exactly how the subject kept changing, but I was talking about books that I used to read when I had a Kindle. I mean, still have it. It just doesn't work. But I had a Kindle. It was honestly the best thing my parents could have possibly bought for me. I read the shit out of that as a child. I read so many goddamn books. Yep, I was talking about a book series that I thought was very cool, very well written, called Don't Tell My Parents I'm a Supervillain. It is such an interesting fucking book because they have like powers you don't normally see, how those powers affect their lives, and the world itself is interesting. There was I like mystery books and adventure books. Me too. Mystery books are good too because I love a good plot twist. My favorite books of all time have insanely good plot twists, and it's, in my opinion, insanely good means it's the kind of plot twist that you can reread the whole book and just see all the ripples from, oh, okay. Oh, another one I just remembered, although this one is kind of sad because the series will probably never be finished, but it's still such a good book, was the game, spelled specifically GAM3. There was so many awful books on Kindle Unlimited that involved like TTR, like RPG elements, like gamified elements, but this one did it well. This one did it really well because it took place on Earth. Like the protagonist didn't get teleported or reincarnated and oh, now you're in a fantasy world that just also happens to have RPG mechanics. And by far that, the game, and So I'm a Spider, So What, I think are the most interesting twists on that formula, where for So I'm a Spider, So What, the thing becomes, they really delve into, oh, okay, so why is there a game-like system like this? Why does this exist? How did it happen? And you learn all of that. And in the game, you know exactly why it exists, but it takes place in the regular world, like a human world, that sort of got introduced into it. There's like, what it was aliens or something, But essentially, everything that happens in real life is determined by what happens in the game. And the game, when they refer to it, is this huge kind of like VR MMO type of thing where you get into a capsule, except it's played by just all these different alien species and all across like the galaxy. And there's like this mutual agreement, not even just mutual agreement, enforced agreement that everything that happens in real life has to be determined by what happens in the game. And in real life, they have these mega powerful administrator bots that will enforce those tasks. And they are so powerful that even their own creators don't have any sort of kill switch, because that would defeat the purpose. They're supposed to obey, like, enforce things that happen in the game in real life. And no one even considers standing up to them. It's easier to just win in the game to have the administrators on your side. But isekai? Yeah, that is exactly what I mean. It's not an isekai. A lot of isekais I see have like game-like elements to them, but this one, it was all of the game-like elements, but without the isekai. Except it actually took place in a game that had real-life consequences. It's so interesting. It's hard to describe, but there's like leveling and like classes you can take and subclasses and all that. But the really interesting thing about it is this world that is based on what happens in the game. The game itself is pretty interesting. I'd play the shit out of it if it were real. But it's this whole world. There's so many secrets. There's so many mysteries to it, and the main character stumbles into a bunch of them right away. Like, by complete accident. Like, conspiracy type shit. Like, things like what the game actually is, and its origins, and what it's for. But that series went unfinished, which is a shame. There was like a pretty big plot twist near the end of the last book that came out, and I was so interested. I was dying that there was no more book after that. There's still no more book. The author of the book, I think his name was Cosma Yan or something. He had a Patreon where he was like uploading drafts of the next book, but I was on that Patreon. He hasn't uploaded a new chapter forever. I think he has completely lost interest in that series, which makes me so sad. Especially when I was partially satisfied by seeing the drafts for the next book, like getting to see what direction he was thinking of taking it in. But it wasn't enough. You know, I feel like that kind of situation calls for somebody to just, you know, take up the mantle and continue the story, but I don't know. I like how that guy's brain worked. I'm not sure that any conclusion I come to would be as satisfying. I feel like it doesn't even feel like a real continuation to the story unless the original mind it was born from continues it. But if I continue to be satisfied with that reasoning, then I'll never have an ending. Oof. It sucks because I finally all my 2 days off. Oh, that's awesome, Jar. I have 2 days off myself coming soon. I've been taking a trip this weekend, and I took Monday and Tuesday off so that I could enjoy it to the fullest. I am looking forward to it. But the trip itself is to go see a dear friend for their birthday. But I'm also just planning on having my fun. Sounds fun? Oh yeah, it's super fun. Well, I don't know. The trip itself, I'm not sure how fun it would be. I hate traveling, but I like going to see friends. What? Which, you know, actually speaking on that, you know, I'll tell you something, Char, and I guess whoever happens to be listening in, which now that I think about it might be the birthday person in question, but they'll say something if they were here. I won't be direct about it, but I was a bit indecisive about picking out a gift. I had a lot of things I was looking at. Does that mean no Tuesday Poppet stream? It could still happen. It depends on how I feel. If I think it's unlikely because I'm gonna come back from, my flight back is in the afternoon. So I would technically still be able to do it. But I'm just not totally certain I'll be able to, you know, have been on a flight and then do a stream, so I can't promise I will. I might. But it should be it's gonna be a lot of fun to see my friend, because actually a couple of people I've only known online up till now are also going to be going to this friend's birthday party. These people just gave me money for my birthday, but I get why they don't. Tired of getting mugs. Yeah, if I'm gonna be totally real, I'm one of those people who actually, like, I like getting money for my birthday, but my my opinion has changed somewhat, where I would rather get money if the person doesn't know me well enough to actually get me a gift they would like, that I would like. Like, there's like a base level of like, oh cool, money. But if it's a friend and somebody that I know very well, getting a gift from them, like, that I enjoy, like, there's just something that warms my heart thinking that somebody knows me well enough to know that I would like. Hell, even if I don't fully like it, just the fact that somebody was thinking of me when they got something, the thought counts for me. I like that, and I value that from friends. From strangers or distant relatives, just give me money. You will never, you have no understanding of what I would enjoy, and I don't have any desire for you to understand anyway. Ever been lives his life, enjoys himself. Hey. On a stream if you're not feeling and do take care of yourself. Yeah, of course, Alice. At the end of the day, I do kind of force myself a little bit with streams, but I think a healthy amount. Enough because I know that I can be kind of a flake if I let myself be. And doing these streams are a great regulator for me. It's something that I consider productive, even if it's not inherently. And it's something that I've kept up a habit of doing. As much as I've had moments where I thought I don't want to stream today and then still did it, I've never regretted it. So I don't stop doing it. Y'all ever feel kind of bad for receiving gifts, or is it just me? I get that. It's it kind of depends on your relationship with a person. For me, it's always a comparison thing where I feel a bit bad if the gift they gave me is just if I think it's amazing and I think it's just like, oh wow, they thought about me so hard, they know me so well, and I think my gift isn't as good. Or at the very least, I feel like their gift is way more thoughtful for me than the one I gave them. Oh man. It's a lot of the time where I don't even really try to give good gifts to people, or I'll just look at what's on their wish list or whatever. I want to get something I know a person will like, even though the risk makes it something more valuable. Like if you get somebody something and they didn't ask you for it or make it clear they wanted it, receiving that feels so much more amazing, and you feel so much more amazing for getting it right. But I just hate the gamble, the possibility that they might have to fake that they enjoyed getting my gift. Or giving gifts on my birthday. Giving gifts on your birthday? That's kind of a wild twist. But I actually feel like I might have changed a little bit as a person, because I was thinking to myself that I've thought that before, but I'm not sure if I feel the same way now. I guess there is sort of I still can kind of get in the mind space of friendships being transactional, but most of the time it's more so in like a effort and time I spend with them kind of way. Like, I feel if somebody clearly spends a lot of time and effort towards me or at me, then I feel like I have to return that same level. Like, otherwise, I'm a bad friend. It's part of the reason, I don't know, streaming worked out a lot of things really well for me. I'm a very selfish person at my core, and ultimately, if I had to pick between talking about myself and my problems and listening to someone else talk about their problems, I would 10 times out of 10 I'd rather talk about my problems. And that, just in being completely honest, I would never tell somebody that directly. I like giving gifts. I feel like money a lot of the times feels like a replacement for time and effort, because money is something that's valuable to everybody. So if I buy something, like give them money in some way, that is a gift I know they will like on streams and streamers who I'm friends with, like Dossie, for example. I will buy gift subs and send bits because it's something I know that she'd be happy that I did. It's guaranteed not to fail. And it feels good to do, to the point where sometimes I overspend, which brings me back to my whole thing about how I'm going to a birthday party this weekend. I gotta be totally real, I overspent. I got a lot into my own head about I didn't want to buy something that it turns out she didn't like. And I knew that she liked this very specific Sanrio character, but also I was like, but if I'm pretty sure she knows that I only learned how much she likes this character very recently, and maybe it's perhaps she would see that as me being lazy, or that I don't know her that well if something that I learned very recently had a heavy influence on what I bought her. So I was reluctant, but also I might be overthinking it and she would like it anyway. But also maybe my gift should be more a piece of me. Like there should be an element of maybe something that we share together, like our friendship. But then that's a bit riskier because there's no guarantee that she would like it. Because I'm making a gamble. The whole point of what makes a gift like that valuable is that it's a gamble. You make a gamble on how well you know a person, that they would like a gift they never specifically asked for. But what I ended up doing is I looked at every single thing I was considering, and then I bought all of them. There's no way I could disappoint her if I just take every chance. This is chaos and so hard to focus on. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? You need that money? You bet I do. And I will die before I ever let her learn exactly how much I spent on all of it. Because I going further, I feel like it kind of, one of the things about giving gifts is it takes a lot of the joy out of it for me if they know that I spent a lot of money on it, especially if they know exactly how much money they spent, because then they're going to start feeling bad. And so I don't want them to feel bad about receiving my gift. But also, it's so much stuff, she'll probably figure I spent a decent amount of money anyway. But screw it. You know, it's not like I spent a debilitating amount of money. Like, I spent maybe like a little bit more, like 50% more than I did on her gift last year. But, you know, at least I know for sure that she won't dislike my gift, because I'm pretty sure she'll like all of them at least a little bit. But by getting all of them, I've guaranteed full satisfaction, just at least collectively. Is that kind of dumb? Perhaps it was. Should I have picked a single gift and that would have meant just as much? Probably. But, you know, at the end of the day, I really like giving gifts. I need to pace myself a bit more. But when it comes to getting... I pace myself easily when it's just me. But when I'm getting a gift for a friend, I don't have that internal sense of, like, I'm spending too much on myself. Because I think the more I spend on something, the more likely it is that it'll be something that it will be enjoyed. So I have a hard time stopping myself. I have a harder time stopping myself from impulse purchases if it's a impulse gift purchase. So yeah, that's how that's a hint as to how this birthday party is gonna go. Realistically, I don't think she'll make a big deal out of the sheer volume. It's like 6 things, and one of them is a bag that I currently have holding all those things. Damn. That's a lot of things, kind of an absurd amount. Yeah, to be totally honest, I'll probably not even be able to bring all of them with me because I literally my ticket for the flight only allows me like 1 carry-on bag, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to pack fully and also take all this stuff. And not almost an absurd amount, it is an absurd amount. Oh, damn. Some things just do 2 damage and totally screw me. But I'm not worried about it because chances are at least one of the things that I got will be greatly appreciated. I'm actually pretty sure that everything I got has a pretty good chance of being something that she wants. Pretty sure. And my first thought was like, she would almost definitely enjoy a big plushie of her favorite Sanrio character. I know for a fact she would probably enjoy that, but that would have been too easy. Because again, you know, I only got introduced the information that she likes that character recently, so I didn't want it to seem like I had put less thought into the gift than I actually did by getting something that I learned very recently. It'd make it seem as if I'm not a thoughtful person who knows her at least decently well. And also the other logic, she might already have one. If it's her favorite character, and I know she likes plushies, she probably already has a really big plushie of this character. And, you know, she might not want the same thing a second time. So I should not go for the easy answer. These are all very flawed reasonings, but they went through my head when I made the purchases, and it's kind of too late to tell myself that I was overthinking it now. The real satisfaction I'll get is when I actually do need to do some packing for that trip today, because the way I've got it set up is that I'll be taking my flight as soon as I'm done with work tomorrow. So I need to have stuff packed. I should take a look at how long the stream's been going as soon as I'm done here. I think we're at a good point for me to stop, but just in case. Whoa! Wasn't ready for that one. Wowza! There's so many bullets. Damn it. Can I see the 2-hour mark? Oh, so I have. And for good reason, too. I think that's probably the most I've ever spoken. I've yapped a lot on this stream, on this channel. But I think that might actually be the most in one stream I've ever talked. Let alone talked and also played a game. Yeah. I'll have to leave it. Probably have to end the stream here. Because as previously mentioned, I do have to start packing. This was nice. It was kind of nice to just yap for a while. I don't always have the energy for it.
Water and water and
Water, 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 and water, and water, 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 and water, and water,
water, water and water and water, water.
But I'm glad to everybody who's lurking as usual, but I also am appreciating all the people who are, you know, interacting with my meaningless, aimless rambling. It means a lot to me. Drinking water? I don't think I drank water once during that whole stream. Other than just now. But I really appreciate it when people interact with me, share their opinions. Stanger, Alice, Bopper. You guys made this this stream very, very easy to do. Ow. And I appreciate y'all for that. I do, at the end of the day, I like talking, but, you know, without like a little bit of bounce back, like somebody saying something, I eventually run out of steam. But you guys were able to keep me going the whole way. So, with that, honestly, shockingly enough, too, I actually played decently well, despite the fact I was only half paying attention. I think I was definitely doing worse than I normally do when I fully lock into playing it. At least in the time I played it before. But I was still progressing, at least. I wasn't getting stuck anywhere. At least slowly, anyway. So yes, I'm going to end the stream, and I'll probably be just going dark on social media, and by social media I mean Discord, for a little bit, and that's why it's because I'm on a trip. I still have access to Discord on my phone, but I probably won't really check it that often. It probably, you know, the last you're gonna see of me until Tuesday if I decide to stream. Otherwise, Thursday. But if I hadn't said it before, just in general, I really, I feel like I have said it recently, but I'm really happy about where I am right now, streaming wise. I feel like I've got like just the right amount, like that I could have even hoped for, of people who actually like show up, appear, talk, and even not talk, just watch and interact with me and humor me when I need to be humored. I'm very satisfied. I know that I say that a lot, but I am. Like, I thought I would be like, I've definitely not made it big as a streamer by any conventional sense, but I've made it to where I'd hoped I'd end up. Like, I am where I wanted to be, realistically be, I ended up getting to. And I thought I would have to be doing this a lot longer to reach this point. I hope my gifts are appreciated too. Let me raid into somebody. Ba 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 da ba. Is there anybody I immediately think I have not, and I need to raid this person? Actually a couple of people. But B Northern is playing Deltarune. I kind of want to raid them again, but I've raided them very recently, and I don't like doing the same person too often. Even as much as I like a person, hey, if I rated people based on like how much I just wanted to be the person who was rating them, I'd probably be rating Dossie a whole bunch, but I gotta keep this open, right? Open a dialogue. Dossie raid? I actually have not rated her recently. That's surprising. I guess I hold myself back more than I thought. Well, damn, okay, we're going Dossie it is. Darcy it is. Darcy raid. Darcy raid. Oh, I closed the window. No, don't spoil it, Alice! Spoilers! You'd hate it. You can't read his stream. You'd hate it, bro. Hi, yeah. Oh, wait. Damn, I'm still streaming on YouTube. Whoops. Well, oh, and it's still going to be on the VOD, too. I always forget this. Thank you, VOD watchers, and anybody who watches me on YouTube. You're also appreciated.